It's that time of the year again. December is here, Christmas is almost here, the end of the year is almost here as well. And you know what also means for December too? Star Wars month. As we all know, Star Wars month is of course now on December. As we all know, what do we get with Star Wars month? Well, we get new movies, and we just got one last week. And of course, I actually went to go see the premiere of The Last Jedi. You know, I didn't think it wasn't that bad of a film. I liked it, but it wasn't like the best Star Wars film that I personally watched. I thought maybe they could have done a little better, but all in all, I thought it was a good film. I didn't think it was bad, and I was like, it's good, but it does have a lot of flaws and off. But yeah, it's okay. It's pretty good. Um, but of course, I'm here to talk about an opinion that I've been thinking about doing for quite a while. Now, there's a trilogy in the Star Wars franchise that doesn't get a lot of credit by a lot of people, especially those who, of course, who are either Star Wars fans or just, regular casual fans aside. And these movies get tarnished a lot by a lot of people. And of course, what movies could be tarnished? Of course, the trilogy that I'm talking about is the prequels or the prequel trilogy. Anytime someone mentions the prequels, that's when, of course, you get the feeling of like, oh, yeah, um, yeah, that's when people are just like, okay, we need to talk about this. The prequels, it's a topic I've been wanting to talk about for my channel for quite a while because I'll be honest, I've been thinking about doing something like this for quite a while because I've always, you know, I'll be honest, you know, I have my honest opinions about these films. And that's what I'm here to do in this video. I want to, break it down. I want to think my true honest opinions about these films. I want to inform people, are these movies actually as bad as others say they are? Now, if you're talking about a trilogy that's bad, don't you need to break down all these three movies and actually, review them and think, okay, why is this trilogy as bad as people say? So that's what I want to do. With this video, I actually want to break down these three movies and get my honest opinions about them and say and also share my honest opinions on whether I like the prequels or not. So, let's get to it. So, in order to understand the prequels, we need to break them down. Oh, by the way, guys, this is actually my guest for the video. He'll be joining me in the video today, and he's pretty camera shy, but I thought of including him in the video because I thought he'd be cool to be part of it. So yeah. So anyway, so let's actually break this whole opinion down. So we need to break the movies by three slices. And what do we mean by that? We need to review the movies and think, okay, what's good and what's bad about them. But but of course, I have my opinions about these movies. For example, Phantom Menace is not an okay movie. Not an okay. Not okay. Phantom Menace to me is the weakest out of every Star Wars film that I have watched so far. Phantom Menace to me is definitely the weakest. Episode 1 is definitely the weakest of all of the Star Wars films. It's now, well, I'll be honest, as a kid, I really enjoyed Phantom Menace. Like I really enjoyed it, and I didn't care because as a kid, I was like what 5 years old at the time. I watched Phantom Menace, and I didn't care. Whether people hated it or not. But as a kid, when you see something that's cool and awesome, because at that time I was seeing a lot of sci-fi movies, and I remember Star Wars happened to be one of them. But that wasn't the first Star Wars film that I personally watched. The first one I watched was Empire Strikes Back. That was my first time that I've had my experience with Star Wars. But Phantom Menace to me was definitely the second movie that I watched. And as a kid, I really enjoyed it because I really liked the plot and I really liked everything that was going on in that film. But as time goes by, I just felt like, uh, do we really need to talk about this film? That's what I felt. I felt that it was one of those movies where I'm just like, hmm. It was one of those movies where it just felt that, you really want to have your honest opinions about them, but you kind of don't want to say it because it's a movie that relates to your favorite franchise, and you just want to be like, okay, it's cool. It doesn't matter whether it gets boring or not or repetitive, but it's just a movie that's just a part of your favorite film franchise. So what's the haze about it? But as I grew up, I just accepted the fact that what? This film is really not good. And I say that because it's a film that I felt that there were a lot of missing elements in that film. And the entire movie, the entire Phantom Menace movie was ridiculously weak. It was weak from everything. From the storyline was entirely weak. From the storyline being about the invasion of the Tax Federation, like that was weak. The way they introduced the Jedi Order in that movie was really weak, really, 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 really weak. The character development was very weak. If you thought Jar Jar Binks was like the only weakest character in that film, no, mostly everybody was weak in that film. From Qui-Gon to Obi-Wan to the young version of a character who would become one of the most powerful feared beings throughout the galaxy was also weak. And of course, you also had the entire, well, yeah, the Gungans were weak. The battle droids were weak. Of course, um, unfortunately, Darth Maul, who I thought was a cool character, he was pretty weak too. He was sort of weak in that film. I'm just like, all the characters in that movie were weak. And anytime I try to rewatch the movie as much as times, I'm just like, I try paying attention to it, but I'm just like, the storyline doesn't intrigue me. It doesn't interest me. The characters don't interest me too. I just say to myself, this is the Star Wars film that I feel like sucks. And I say that because I'm just like, it pains me to say that because as much as I love Star Wars, episode one is like, oh, like, it just doesn't feel Star Wars. It's just like something that is trying to relate to Star Wars, but just can't at the same time. Only scenes that just interest me, or anything that only interests me about the film, was the pod race that they had on Tatooine, of course, with Anakin and everybody else. And of course, the lightsaber duel scene between Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan against Darth Maul. I thought that scene was pretty interesting. Of course, what I try paying attention to, what I try to always paying attention to the movie every time is how the Sith is trying to reemerge and how they're trying to reemerge it with the rule of two, as we see it with Darth Sidious and Darth Maul, and also how Anakin Skywalker is supposed to be the chosen one of the Jedi prophecy, but there is less the development on the character. They try to focus the character more, but it's like it felt like a less development plot line for Anakin in this movie, and I felt like that was really disappointing. Now, a lot of people may have their harsh opinions on Jake Lloyd, the actor who played Anakin Skywalker in Episode One. I think he did an okay job. He wasn't my favorite actor in the film, but I thought he was okay. And I think the reason why people did not like him, well, other than his acting, it has to be from George Lucas's writing. Now, I'll admit, before I discuss the entire thing between George Lucas's writing and the prequels, um, I will admit, George Lucas's writing for Phantom Menace was not good, not good, not at all. I thought his writing for the characters was pretty weak. It made you realize, okay, why these characters are all the characters that were involved in the Phantom Menace were very weak in the first place. Storyline was weak. It just didn't have that feel where just like, okay, it's gonna be good because it's Star Wars, but at the same time, people accepted that this was a Star Wars movie that just wasn't what it was meant to be. And when then we go to Attack of the Clones, Episode Two. Now, Attack of the Clones is not a perfect movie, but it at least to me improves. And to me, this is my opinion, it at least improves on what Phantom Menace try to captivate. Uh, Even though it fails, it still can captivate what Phantom Menace try to do and have that Star Wars raw into it. We see that with that movie, but other than that, I can't really say that that Attack of the Clones is the best film from the prequels. No, uh, I think it's good. Yeah, some of the dialogue in that film could be a little cheesy at times, but I felt that the characters in Attack of the Clones weren't that bad at all. Development on the characters was a little, but it was all right. From what I remember, but as well, the story of Attack of the Clones was pretty okay. I'd say it was okay because sorry about that. My throat. Yeah, I have a sore throat, guys. So do expect me to sound a little weird in the video. But anyway, story for the film was it was it was pretty good. I didn't have a harsh time with the story. Only thing that just probably bothered me a little bit was probably the love scenes between Anakin and Padme. I felt like those scenes were just a little off the top. I guess because they try to connect it more to Anakin, to what would become Anakin's fall to the dark side. Now, this is why I like this movie too, because this heavily connects to what would become the fall of Anakin's fate. Now, we wouldn't see that into the next film, but in this we could see, okay, this is what can lead to the path of Anakin to the dark side, as we see it in Attack of the Clones. As well as that, I mean, I really like, the whole story of how, the Republic is now in crisis and they don't know what to do, and they're trying to re-emerge and try to focus on, on keeping the Republic, safe. Ever since, of course, Count Dooku and the Separatist army have gotten all the support from the other Confederates groups from the Galactic Republic. But as well as that too, I mean, the addition of the clones and Jango Fett, I thought they were pretty good. I really like Jango Fett. I thought he was a pretty cool character. I know a lot of people were just like, because he's Boba Fett's father, that makes him cool. I don't think so. I thought he was. Well, I mean, Boba Fett's a clone of Jango. He's not his actual child. Well, you could say he kind of is because he is a clone. but but for me, I thought the characters in Attack of Clones were very good, especially Christopher Lee's performance as Count Dooku. I thought that was pretty awesome. Uh, for me, the best moment in that film has to definitely be the Battle of Geonosis. I thought that film was. I thought that scene in the film was pretty awesome. Having all the Jedi just battling, just a bunch of Geonosians and droids. I thought that was pretty sick. Especially just having Jedi's like Mace Windu and Yoda battling in that film. That was just awesome to see. Um, to me, Attack of the Clones is okay. It's one of those movies where it's just like it's okay, but it's like it's a movie that you can watch whether you like it or whether you hate it. So it's a mixed movie, It's a mixed movie, but it's definitely one of those movies where you're just like you can like it or you can hate it. I like it, I have no problems with Attack of the Clones. I thought it was okay, but it still doesn't complete what, Phantom Menace tried to do. But to me, it at least tried to do what Phantom Menace tried to do, but at the same time it fails. But I still find it okay. But Attack of the Clones, it's okay, got no problem with it. Um, well, Revenge of the Sith is the best out of all of the other films from the prequels. If if anyone mentions what's the best uh, Star Wars film from the prequel trilogy, it's definitely Revenge of the Sith. It nails the whole on what Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones failed to do. I see, Revenge of the Sith definitely being the film that really takes the place on being the top Star Wars films from that trilogy. I could definitely see that. Um, as Attack of the Clones, of course, would come to an end, we would see, of course, the climactic of the Clone Wars and what would transpire into that film. We would see that and how this whole war is now coming to an end, and as everyone's thinking, is the Republic going to be safe now? Well, not so much, because as we all know, the Jedi Order would come crumbling to an end, and of course, the Empire would be created. But this also, we would see the movie on how the darker aspects of Star Wars would become until we would see how they would try to be re-enlightened in A New Hope. Revenge of the Sith definitely has probably one of the best Star Wars storylines to ever be implicated in a Star Wars film. For me, because I'm a huge fan of the Clone Wars, and I see a lot of Clone Wars. I see a lot of Clone Wars elements implicated into that film, of course. And so obviously it's obvious no reason to do that. Well, there's no, not a reason. Sorry, guys. It's not hard to do that. Why did I say no reason? No, it's not hard to do that since the Clone Wars is still continuing from that point, but it's of course coming to an end. But after the Clone Wars, we would finally see what would become the beginning of the Empire, the end of the Jedi Order, and how the Sith would, of course, keep rising power once the Empire is created. And of course, we would see one of the greatest, one of the greatest feared characters throughout Star Wars history finally be implicated well into that movie. The characters in Revenge of the Sith were done fantastic. Whether if it's the Jedi's, if it's Palpatine, if it's Anakin or Obi-Wan, or Yoda, I think they did a fantastic job with all the characters that were associated with the storyline in Revenge of the Sith. I thought they were done very well. Especially one of my favorite scenes in the film has to be Order 66. As a kid, it kind of made me sad too, just watching that scene, because as I knew, this was going to be the end of the Jedi Order. And so it was hard for me. I remember just watching that movie in theaters and remember watching that scene. It was hard because I was like, dude, the entire Jedi Order as I know it is going to come to an end. Of course, the Clone Wars is done. Of course, Grievous is finally gone, but the Jedi is out of the picture too. There's no Jedi anymore. That's how you can tell like it's going to connect to the original trilogy too, because there is no such thing as the Jedi anymore. The Jedi is long gone. The Sith sort of is long gone, but it's established with the Empire, so of course there is no such thing as the Sith being gone, as they would of course arise from power once the Empire would be created. But also we get one of the saddest character developments of all time, and that'd be Anakin Skywalker. As in Phantom Menace, he was a child who was just feared on what he just had so much fear on what was going to happen with his new life now that he's moving away from his mother and everything that he's known. And of course, with his training as a Jedi, is then we would see him as a Padawan in Attack of the Clones, excuse me. And of course, in Attack of the Clones, we would see that fear coming from above. And then we would see that anger building up to him. And in Revenge of the Sith, we would see that hate implicated more. And once we see that climactic battle between Obi-Wan and him, we will finally see where he is about to finally suffer his true fate. And so it's really sad because a character like Anakin is so reasonable to understand, and it's just hard to accept what's going to happen with this character. This was a character who had his dreams on becoming the greatest Jedi master in the entire galaxy, and he just wanted to be a hero for the entire galaxy, the Republic, and now his dreams are getting crushed where he basically needs to focus on saving his wife, and the only way to do that is if he embraced the dark side of the Force, which of course he does, but it also leads him to his ultimate defeat, and it gets into the position to where he now has to embrace that whole embodiment that he would suffer in of course in the future Star Wars films and future Star Wars arcs as well, and from the expanded universe. And Revenge of the Sith is the film that to me really nails in the cake. It's really that film that's just like, oh yeah, if I have to say what's my favorite film from the prequel trilogy, it's definitely that film. And by the fact, Revenge of the Sith is actually my number one favorite Star Wars film. If I had to rank all the Star Wars films in general, I think Revenge of the Sith would definitely be number one for me. I mean, it's a Star Wars film that I would rewatch as many times as I want to, and I'm not afraid to say a prequel trilogy is number one on my list, and I'm not afraid to say that. Um, so my thoughts on, of course, the prequel trilogy. What do I think of them personally? Well, of course, I like the prequel trilogy. I don't think it's really, they aren't really bad movies in my opinion. I think they just weren't well made. Now, I'll be honest. If someone told me, "Do you think the prequels were well made, and do you think are they better Star Wars movies than the original trilogy or the new trilogy?" I'd say, no, but they're not good looking movies, but they're pretty good movies to watch. If you're a hardcore Star Wars fan like me, and if you're a hardcore fan of the expanded universe like I am, because I'm a huge fan of the expanded universe of Star Wars, I'd say one of the main reasons I love the prequels to death, and this is really the biggest reason why I love it too, is because these are films that really embodiment and really connect what the entire core of the entire Star Wars expanded universe what would become. This franchise also gave me one of my favorite storylines in Star Wars expanded universe history, and that's the Clone Wars. Without these franchise, there would be no Clone Wars. There probably wouldn't be an expanded universe of Star Wars, being connected to what we would see this whole Star Wars core be from either the legends or the canon timeline of Star Wars. To me, I see the prequels as, something that really embodiments the entire expanded universe of Star Wars. Without this film franchise, for me, there would be no entire core of the expanded universe. There would be no Clone Wars. Most importantly, there probably wouldn't be how there also wouldn't be how the original trilogy would be an embodiment to what the entire expanded universe would also become too, because the prequels gave us that as well. And no matter what people may say about these films, I think to myself, they're good in their own right, but they're not the best looking movies. I still enjoy the prequels to this day. Whether I'm watching Phantom Menace, Attack of Clones, or Revenge of the Sith, I don't mind. And Revenge of the Sith is my number one favorite Star Wars film, and I'm not afraid to admit that. Not afraid to even own the prequels. Of course, I own all the Star Wars movies, even the new ones, of course, like the spin-offs and the new trilogy ones. But definitely the prequels, I'm glad to have it in my collection, of course. I mean, you can't have Star Wars collection without the prequels. But most importantly, I think the prequels were good movies to me in their own right, but they weren't well made. But George Lucas himself even admitted that he's not a good writer, and that's probably the reason there's a big downside in these movies. If I have to say what's the ultimate downside, it's probably the writing. The writing in these movies are not good. The writing is very poor written. Direction, well, Lucas is a very good director. George Lucas he's a good director, but he's not the best writer. He's a good director, but not a good writer. I think that's what you should definitely think of when you think of George Lucas and the prequels. You should definitely think of how he wanted to envision these movies and why he made them in the first place. Just ignore the writing. The writing is probably the only thing that I could care less about these movies. But at the end of the day, prequel trilogy, I like it. I don't see why there's a reason to hate these movies, especially since I'm a hardcore Star Wars fan. I don't know why there's a reason for me to hate them. I mean, even Mark Hamill himself even says that how can people bash these movies if they're really good? Well, for me, they're good. I don't know about you, but well, whatever. If you really like these movies, good. If you don't like them, whatever. That's your opinion. But I like them. And I'm not afraid to admit that. You want to dislike this video because I said I like these movies and I had an honest opinion about them? Go ahead, dislike the video. If you like the video, yeah, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe to the channel, and hope to do more of these geeky opinion videos later in the future. As you all know, well, December is, like I said, December is already here, and since December is the final month of the year, I do plan to do a end of year video later and show you the guys the stuff that I got for 2017, like new Nintendo products that I got and stuff, and just give my own thoughts about what did I think of 2017 as a year perspective, because I want to do something like that. And so maybe do something like that for probably for New Year's Eve. I kind of want to do something like that, and just show you guys what I got for this year and my thoughts. So yeah. But anyway, guys, that leaves it up. Thank you so much for watching the video. Give it a like if you enjoyed it, and comment down whether you like the prequels or not, and what's your honest opinion about them. Comment down them below. Subscribe for more geeky, for more gaming content. Well,